Oh,
Yeah. So I live in Alabama. Um,
great.
it's super warm here for the most part,
Yeah, yeah.
and it get we get a couple of days of it being cold, but nothing for real for real.
No,
So
we
uh,
hate the cold. I absolutely love it.
so it snows like once every 4 years here, and it is the worst experience ever because nobody knows how to drive in it at all. So most people just wreck their stuff.
I've only seen snow once in my life. Snowy
uh,
mountains down in New South Wales.
I remember when I was like 10 or 11 years old. It was the middle of April, which is down here. It's like already 85, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess would be
Probably what
25, 30 degrees Celsius. So it's pretty hot.
a bit hot. Yeah.
And we just got a really freak storm, and we got like 2 feet of snow. Like the whole city was shut down for like 3 weeks because nobody had salt, nobody had plows, nobody had anything. And like we lived up on a mountain at the time, and so us kids, we loved it. We didn't have to go to school. We rode our skateboards upside down,
High day, as they call it. Yeah.
and my dad hated it because he's from Michigan, which is really far up north, almost to Canada. And he was like, I should be able to go to work. I should be able to go around. And he drove down the hill in his Jeep and realized that not even the main roads had been plowed. And he just drove right back up the hill. And he's like, well, I guess we're not going anywhere. But yeah, that was always a ton of fun when, as a kid, when we got snow because
Yeah.
we never got it. My wife is from Ohio and they get snow like 347 times a month. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just another thing for her. Okay. So
Are you able to change the name or should I log out and
it's
it's
fine. It's not even showing on my screen now. I have you blown up and it just has my business name at the top.
blown up good? Well, I'll let Bruce take the hot seat again because I can't give you an interview.
It's fine. It is fine. I'm glad to have you.
Nice to see you then.
Carolyn is an intrinsic part of what we do, though, as far as the producing side goes.
That's awesome. So I read your bio and I didn't know y'all been doing music for so long. That's really awesome.
Well, in spurts, Benjamin, because I had the live performing period, which is relatively short, really, from
Hmm.
say late '81 to early '85. Then I just got sick of being in bands, to be honest, because there were so many disappointments and
I hear you.
setbacks and struggling financially all the time. Uh, Basically repressed all my musical creativity and whatever else, and didn't actually do anything musically until I did try to get a band together in 2004.
Hmm.
That was an absolute disaster. I won't go into that. It was pretty bad, but the only good thing about that was it got me writing again. So I wrote a lot of songs while that was happening. And there was only about 2019 I decided to try and digitalize the old recordings I did back in the 80s, of which there was just a couple of them, and actually get them out for the very first time, which was the first thing I did.
Nice.
And after that, I teamed up with an old bandmate, Mark Hocknell, and he co-produced the first 15 new releases with Carolyn. And that's when Carolyn got involved in recording. And since then, Mark split, and so Carolyn's doing full producing now.
Nice. So like, how much of it do you guys do at home, and how much do you do in a studio?
So it's all done at home. Couldn't afford to go into a studio. And to be honest with you, I don't think that process would work with me either.
Right.
Because, well, it wouldn't work mainly because I couldn't afford it. But apart from that, I know just trying to get musicians to come into a studio and try and play the parts and stuff. It's easy if we just do it ourselves, because I know exactly what I want, and it's easier to do it all here.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you on that. I have a home studio set up as well, and I find that inspiration strikes me at really odd times. And so I'll come in and I'll write a piece or I'll write a melody, and then I'll store it in the computer and come back to it a couple weeks later, or most likely forget about it altogether, and then come across it later and be like, oh, what's this? But
With the recording ideas, I mean, if you don't have a full idea,
mhm,
just recording bits and pieces is good. You can always come back to it, as you said, and it may develop, become a fully blown song.
have you guys ever thought about like writing for other people?
No, I'm too flat out just trying to get my own songs out there, because
Hmm.
there's still some songs from the '80s I did with the original bands I played in that are still yet to record. Yeah, I don't know how many there are, but it'd be at least about a half a dozen of fairly decent songs. Apart from that, I've written a lot of new ones I haven't got around to recording yet either.
Hmm. I wish I had that kind of stuff sitting around. I wrote two albums within about I guess 2 months of each other because couldn't decide what I wanted to release in my first album, and I had a bunch of tracks just sitting around, and I was like, I'll just finish up a second album and just release it. And when I go to explain that to people, they're like, I don't know how you finished that many songs that quickly. And it's always been, I find something, I write it. If I can't get it down, if I can't get it recorded or at least framed out, then or reasonably because I have 4 kids, if somebody comes in and distracts me and I lose track of what I'm doing, I'll just completely abandon a piece if I don't get it done all at one time. So I imagine
Yeah,
having,
it's big when you got kids,
mhm.
particularly young one.
My youngest is just turned 3, and
Oh,
he loves all of the guitars and all of the pianos. I have an upright piano in my living room, and he's the only one that plays it. My older kids, they're just like TV, video games. But my 3-year-old, and he used to he used to bang on the keys, but now he actually tries to play stuff, which is really weird to me because I didn't expect that to develop on its own. So I have
yeah,
he's
you
he's
still
gonna he's gonna be my retirement plan.
okay, good. Good. It's good when you got one that's you're a muse yourself. You got one that's interested in carrying on the tradition.
Hmm. The other ones say they are, but they don't have an interest in it for real. I bought
Mm.
oh, you can't see it because I had too much stuff in the corner. I bought a Squire Strat, 3/4 size for my daughter, and she played it twice, took some pictures with it, and then that was it.
Mm.
So we'll see who ends up with that one. I might take it on tour with me if I ever have to go
Yeah,
touring.
I'm sure it's a decent instrument anyway.
Oh yeah, I had it set up and everything. I have a luthier that does all of my guitar work. Shout out Robert Sharp. But he takes my guitars probably every 6 months. It's what I've managed to get going, and he does set up strings, make sure that they stay in tune, and it's a blessing for me because I'm way too lazy to do it myself. And I don't have all the tools, and he gets it done. He gets it done in a weekend. I can send him 4 guitars, and he'll have them all done at the same time. So that is the benefit that my kids have to having a musically inclined parent is they have cool stuff if they want to learn how to do it. But I can't make them do it because I was made to take piano lessons for 10 years, and I resented it for a really long time. So I tried not to do that to them.
Yeah,
So.
we've all made that mistake, Ben. Our two boys are grown up adults now, but yeah, we paid masses of tuition for each of them, and only the younger ones showed any real interest and potential. And as being a bass player, and he was actually turning into a fairly decent bass player, and he trolled at a college, music college or something like that,
Hmm.
and and he asked the guys, do you get much money out of being a musician? Basically, he said no. So he lost his interest straight away.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are really disinterested in when they have to think about how much work it is to actually make a living as a musician.
Yeah.
And like I know you read about my events, kind of how we got touching base, but a lot of that is artist development in so much as learning how to make a living as a performing artist, as a performing arts person, how to find gigs, how to talk to promoters, how to find venues that'll work with you, how to get your name out, how to do social media or marketing or whatever you want to call it. Because I know so many people that just had their buddy be their manager or just a guy that they knew, and they didn't approach it with any real business acumen. And sometimes people got lucky and they found a really good manager. Sometimes people just fell by the wayside because they couldn't do P&Ls. They couldn't figure out what would be profitable for them in the long run versus what makes me a couple dollars today. Actually, we have a problem. We have a big problem with that here in this city because music has never been traditionally valued like it would be in like LA or Nashville or something like that. But we're they're trying to do a citywide uh, renaissance. Oh hush, my watch is talking to me. But they're trying to do a citywide renaissance and introduce more people to live music as a series of venues, both owned by the city and private, to kind of get people more interested in music as a form of day to day entertainment rather than you know every once in a while type things or going to the arena and watching Kiss or going to see just a special band every 6 months or a year. They want people to be able to go every day and find live entertainment, which is great for the musicians. Not so much for the musicians that don't know how to handle that kind of rotation. So
Mm.
it's fun.
Yeah, business acumen is something I think musicians have traditionally lacked, and it's an ongoing thing. You go right back to the 60s and think of all the bands that had big names, and only a few of them were getting well paid and weren't ripped off by their managers and whatever else. You had the odd exceptions like Paul McCartney, who through his wife Linda, got a decent manager behind him, and yeah, but that's the exception rather than the rule. I think it's hasn't changed much over time, to be honest.
Well, I mean, Paul McCartney is a very special case because those guys they didn't have anything, and they put everything they had in staying in the studio until they got something written. And I'm sure that cost so much money for them to have somebody that would stand behind them and push them as artists. And could you imagine having such a conviction when you were 17 years old that you donated everything you had to just go into a studio for a month? I mean, and they were in it for days and days and days and days and days trying to get something written. And they finally got something, and then they didn't get any kind of traction until they came stateside. And then they blew up. So it's a positive story, but I want to say they didn't really get like super they it wasn't super fast for them was what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, they had all those years in slogging away in Hamburg, wherever it was over in Germany, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Playing really long shifts, and then the cavern and whatever else. So they did a lot of groundwork as far as becoming disciplined musicians.
Mhm.
And the business stuff came a little bit later.
Right.
And as you said, they blew up once they went stateside.
I mean that always tripped me out because that was one of the bands that we grew up on. You know, they were telling us how these guys went into a studio and came out, and then all of a sudden they're just huge and on every TV and on all three channels. So because apparently that's all TVs had back then. But then we were also told that anybody could go into a studio and make a single and record it and get on the radio. Because apparently, like the doo-wop thing was everybody and their mama had a doo-wop band. Everybody had a single. Nobody really stuck around for a long period of time, but everybody had a chance. And I think that kind of attitude from our parents really discouraged them from encouraging us to pursue music. That was one of the big problems I had as a kid, anyways. So I imagine it's about probably close to you. Hmm?
What's that?
I said I would imagine it's probably similar for you.
And what in terms of inspiration to get involved in music, which you're
Hmm.
talking about? My brother was probably my main inspiration. I've got a brother who's 4 years older, and he was always turning me on to new music because he probably could afford to buy records and I couldn't, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, but it was good. It was always it was lucky that we sort of liked the same type of stuff. So I started off like everyone else, loving the Beatles and being inspired by them because it was so popular and had a lot of things going from good sense of humour, uh, very good in conversation as well as good music. But then it went on to other things, and but my brother was always turning on to new stuff that was coming out, like Hendrix and whatever else. And yeah, and Dad to a lesser extent, Dad was I think a bit of a frustrated jazz musician. Um, don't know much about what he did when he was younger. I think he played in some sort of maybe I don't know some sort of jazz band or Dixie band or something. I think he played cornet. And then but when I remember Dad though, he used to play used to pick up a clarinet and play a few things every now and then. And he had a harmonica called a chromatic harmonica. I don't know if you're familiar with those ones. A bit more technical than your normal blues harp and things like that. He used to pick up one of those and sound reasonably good every now and then. But yeah, he was just a hard-working person, so I don't think I think his father just forced him to be a builder basically.
Hmm.
'Cause
Hmm.
his father was a builder and Dad apparently had the talent to be an architect, but father said, "Not no way you're going to be an architect. You got to follow my footsteps." And it's a pretty hard slog for him. I remember him getting up from the godly bloody hour and coming home late, whatever, every day. Um, yeah, but I think I've got a bit of creativity, or not creative inspiration from Dad, simply because I think we were argued about music so much, to be honest.
Hmm.
Uh, he was a bit of a hard nut jazz fan, whereas I was a hard nut rock fan, although I secretly liked some of the stuff he was playing, like Wes Montgomery, for example. I actually ended up buying the Wes Montgomery record. I think I secretly wanted to get it so I could listen to him as well. And I've still got that record. And yeah, so we had lots of arguments, but surprisingly, Dad ended up being like the person who used to go to concerts with me because I had no one else to go with me, you know. I remember going to a few blues concerts of different, some of the really big artists came out there at different stages, like B.B. King and Muddy Waters and a lot of those old guys who were at that time were still at their peak when I saw them. Quite impressive, Freddie King, etc. And Dad loved blues music, so that's something we did have in common. And he even went to a rock concert with me. I think it was Manfred Mann Earth Band or the one before Chapter 3, and it was incredibly loud. And with Dad talking about how incredibly loud the concert was, you know, I think it was the main impression I had on him.
Well, they said if it's too loud, you're too old, right?
What's that, sorry?
They said if it's too loud, you're too old, right?
Yeah, that's right. Even now I like loud music, so every time I have the headset on, I have it up to full blast.
Yeah, I got earphones for that.
Yeah,
Earplugs.
yeah.
That I can hear
Those
what's
are
going
pretty
on, but I'm not gonna lose my hearing. Cause
yeah, that's true. I'll have to get those too before I lose mine,
they I want to say the ones They're called eargasms. They're something like 20 decibel reducing, but then they have uh, or I guess it's like a hearing aid that repeats everything that goes around. But it definitely keeps you from just losing everything in your in your ears when you're in front of a.
The quality of music like when you're listening to music with them on
Hmm.
is much the same.
That's actually pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't when you're at a concert and it's 150 decibels standing in front of a speaker, everything's gonna if you can hear it and it doesn't just sound like screaming, it's pretty good quality.
yeah.
But I got into them because I worked as a car mechanic for a really long time, and you have engines running without exhaust and stuff on them, and they would put tinnitus in your ear if you let them. And so we had to wear earplugs anytime it was louder than like 80 decibels in the shop. And I wanted to listen to music when I worked, so that's what I got. And they happen to work really well. But that was a long time ago. Now I just got a notice on Zoom because this is the first time I've used Zoom for this thing. It's like you got 10 minutes left. So I'm gonna try to play the song you sent me so that the people that are watching can hear your music. And tell me if you can hear it. Hold on. You'll know? Alright, good. We'll try this again. We're gonna move this in here. Put this back here. And try this one more time. Oh, I don't know. This Zoom part is being so weird. Okay, so I need to share a tab. Boop. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. This should work.
Two times you've gone, let me down, and now it's too painful having you around. Gave much love, you throw it away. Looking for love
I'm sorry.
that always
Because
lasts.
that's one of the songs that I wrote back in 2004 when I was trying to get my last band together. Originally actually going to be a country song, believe it or not. I was going to I heard something in the keyboard, like to go in a different direction, so I just totally changed the melody. And R&B. Only trimmed the country there with the pedal too, under there.
Yeah, I heard this song and I was when you first sent it to me, and I was like, I gotta interview this guy. I gotta see I gotta see how this was made. And like that's why it caught me off guard when you said you were in Brisbane because I couldn't hear any accents or anything in it. But
Yeah.
So I assumed y'all were stateside. And you're like, yeah, I'm in Australia. I was like, oh. Did not, because, like, if you listen to Tones and I, you can tell that she's from Australia. I don't know if you know
I
that.
think actually from Brisbane as well. So
I mean, she has a definite accent when you listen to her music. But like when I was listening to this song, I didn't hear any of that, and that's why when you said you're from Australia, it caught me completely off guard.
right.
So y'all have a completely different approach to music, don't y'all? Like,
For the time, for the Australian music.
yeah, I mean, like as far as how it's promoted, who gets airplay, stuff like that.
No, I think we probably have much the same issues as you guys here, to be honest. If anything, we've got a smaller market, so there's less people over here too. So
Yeah.
certainly a lot of music around, but again, the competition's pretty fierce though.
I mean, do y'all like what's the process for getting a single played over there? It's the same thing as it is here.
Getting a single played.
Yeah.
Well, if you're lucky enough to have like something like Sony music behind it, something like that, no problem at all, mate. You just independent artist. We've got a site over here called AMRAP, which is community radio. So you can submit songs to that, and they get picked up by whoever downloads and is interested. Like the song you're listening to now, Two-Time Loser. There's 14 different sites to download and how many of them are actually playing it, I have no idea. Because, they download things, they don't play them, But it's had a lot of interest anyways. It was on a show last week in a different state, and the way that guy works is he plays 3 hours of mainly original Australian music, and he gets people to text in with supporting their artist. And so honestly, I didn't think we had a chance in hell of getting noted on the show. We were the third song that he played. We're talking about the same song you're listening to, Two-Time Loser. There was a third one he played. And I just encouraged a small group of people I know to text in and support it. And then a couple of days later, he tagged me and all the people involved and said that we were runners up. Apparently, we just got in by a single vote or something like that. But we were
That's
runners up,
awesome.
so, and we're getting played again tomorrow night because of it.
That's awesome. All right, I think my time's gonna be up. I think my time's gonna be up now. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and you'll see this up in probably a couple of days. I'm trying to post this by at least next Tuesday, and I'll tag you in a post when I get it done.
Yeah, no dramas, right?
All right, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your morning.